Hey guys, tonight we're easing into something loud, fast, and absolutely impossible to ignore, but don't worry, you won't have to survive it at full volume. We're slowing everything down so you can drift off while learning about one of the most hyperactive forces the internet has ever created. Picture this. You're standing in a small Bronx apartment, the kind where the hallway lights flicker, the floorboards complain, and somebody's cooking something wildly spicy 2 doors down. You hear laughter, arguments about who ate the last slice, footsteps running, and a TV blasting from a neighbor's cracked door. In other words, peak New York chaos. And right in the middle of it, a kid named Kai Cenat is figuring out how to be funny enough to rise above the noise. You probably won't survive the energy levels he grew up with, but you'll make it through this story just fine. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're watching right now, let me know your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy little community reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in the Bronx now, walking through a neighborhood where the subway rattles like an angry metal dragon above you, and every block has its own soundtrack. Horns, arguments, music leaking out of passing cars, the occasional "yo" shouted from a window because someone saw their cousin 2 stories below. You move toward Kai's building, and you can feel the stories soaked into the cracked concrete. His childhood wasn't glamorous, but it shaped him with a resilience that would eventually fuel those marathon streams you've probably seen clips of. A mainstream fact you'll often hear is that Kai grew up in a big family, surrounded by siblings, energy, and the kind of constant noise that forces you to develop comedic timing just to be heard. Historians still argue whether childhood chaos is the secret ingredient for entertainers, but with Kai, well, it kind of looks like it. Inside his apartment, everything is small but full of life, full of people, full of movement. Imagine trying to record a single quiet moment in a place where even your own thoughts have to dodge traffic. Kai learned early on that the easiest way to command space wasn't through volume, it was through humor. He had that natural spark, the look at me real quick charm that makes people pause mid-scroll. A quirky little detail you might not know is that he originally wanted to be a professional dancer when he was younger. Yep, before the Twitch throne, before the celebrity collabs, before the screaming reaction clips, Kai was in talent shows trying to nail dance routines he practiced in hallways barely wide enough for a 2-foot spin. You wander into Kai's childhood room, a small space packed with sneakers, school books, and a bed positioned just close enough to the wall that you could lose your phone forever if it slipped between the mattress and plaster. The posters on the wall hint at someone obsessed with entertainers, comedians, dancers, YouTubers. Even as a kid, Kai studied people who knew how to hold attention. You're standing there, listening to the faint thump of music coming from outside, thinking about how wild it is that a whole streaming empire can begin in a room this tiny. His school days were exactly what you expect. Funny kid energy, harmless trouble, and the kind of charisma teachers warn you about while also secretly rooting for you. Picture yourself walking through the school hallways beside him, weaving through kids shoving textbooks into lockers, someone yelling about losing their Metro card again, and posters peeling off the walls announcing some fundraiser that definitely isn't raising funds. Kai's the kid everyone knows, not necessarily the class clown, but the one with the loudest laugh, the fastest comeback, and the ability to flip any boring moment into something entertaining. There's this soft moment, whether completely accurate or just family lore level exaggerated, when young Kai realized he loved making people laugh more than anything else. Maybe it happened in the cafeteria after a perfectly timed joke, or maybe during a family gathering when everyone burst out laughing at something he said. The exact flashpoint is fuzzy, but the effect was real. He found his superpower. Outside the school, the city keeps roaring. You're walking with Kai through the blocks after class, heading toward home, weaving around people selling snacks, kids doing tricks on scooters, and a guy promoting his mixtape with almost supernatural persistence. Kai soaked all of this in, the energy, the personalities, the constant performance of New York life. Growing up here is like being dropped into a never-ending improv show where everyone's a character and nobody sticks to the script. Family was the anchor. He had a mom who believed in him, siblings who challenged him, and a household where you learn thick skin whether you like it or not. New York families are built different, supportive but brutally honest. If you aren't funny, someone tells you. If your joke doesn't land, you'll know. If you think you're famous because 30 people liked your clip, they'll remind you to take the trash out. That kind of grounding is why Kai stayed relatable even as millions started watching him. As you stand near the apartment window, hearing cars rushing beneath, you can imagine him as a kid dreaming of something big, but not knowing what shape it would take yet. The Bronx was loud, unpredictable, and rough around the edges, but it taught him how to be louder, faster, funnier, and more resilient than the world around him. Without this setting, there is no Kai Cenat as we know him. And as this section begins to settle, you realize the kid bouncing around this tiny apartment would one day become the most watched streamer on Twitch. But first, he needed his stage. You leave that small Bronx apartment behind, stepping into the cold evening air where car horns, chopped up conversations, and the distant rumble of the train blend into a rhythm Kai grew up moving through. Now you're walking beside a slightly older version of him, still loud, still fast, but with a new spark in his eyes. This is the era where he discovers the thing that will change his life, making people laugh on purpose, not just by accident. You can almost see him trying to explain it to friends. Nah, bro, I think I'm gonna start posting skits. And of course someone laughs, because in the early days, nobody believes the quiet seed of a dream. But the idea stays with him anyway, buzzing in his mind louder than the subway overhead. You stroll into his school's computer lab, the kind where half the keyboards are missing keys and the chairs make that screech noise every time you shift. Here, Kai starts plotting. Not anything villainous, don't worry, just the kind of plotting that turns into a career. He watches short comedy clips, viral memes, and skits from his favorite creators. A mainstream fact you'll hear a lot is that Instagram was his first stage. Not YouTube, not Twitch, not the big platforms, just quick hit comedy drops in a feed that moves at the speed of light. But the real magic? Kai understood attention. He could catch it, hold it, and flip it back around with a reaction so loud and so dramatic that it just stuck in people's minds. You're leaning over his shoulder as he edits his earliest videos, simple, shaky phone skits recorded in hallways, stairwells, school bathrooms he definitely wasn't supposed to be in, and living rooms where someone's aunt kept walking in mid-take. These weren't high production clips, they were raw, messy, fast, and that's exactly what made them good. A quirky tidbit you might not know is that Kai used to record multiple skits back to back in one afternoon, changing outfits, moving to new corners of the building, improvising half the lines. He didn't have a script, he had instinct. Back then, social media fame was like standing in a crowded cafeteria screaming, "Look at me!" and hoping at least someone turned around. Kai didn't scream, he played characters, overly dramatic kids, fake tough guys, clueless boyfriends, that one friend who takes your joke way too far. In a world where everyone copied everyone, his comedy felt personal. Historians still argue whether natural charisma can be taught, but with Kai, no, he had that built in. Imagine being on the bus with him after school, packed shoulder to shoulder with kids blasting music, someone eating chips way too loudly behind you, and a driver who's already had enough for the day. Kai's nose is practically pressed against the window as he replays his own skit, laughing at himself. That's the thing, he genuinely liked what he made. If nobody else watched, he would have kept posting anyway. That kind of self-amusement eventually becomes self-confidence, and that confidence becomes momentum. Now the follower count starts creeping upward, slow at first, then faster. 10 likes turn into 100, 100 turns into 1,000. You can feel the energy in him shift. He's realizing the world is laughing with him, not just at the chaos around him. There's a point every creator hits when the dream stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling like a plan. For Kai, that point was around the time strangers began quoting his videos at him outside school. Imagine that, walk in to get a chopped cheese and hearing someone yell your punchline from across the street. Embarrassing? Maybe. Motivating? Absolutely. His family notices too. His mom, supportive but cautious, keeps that classic New York parent energy. Something like, okay, baby, but don't let this distract you from your homework. Meanwhile, his siblings start asking to be in his videos. Every home becomes a set, every hallway a stage, every conversation potential content. You can almost see young Kai running through the apartment saying, just one take, I promise, while someone in the kitchen shouts back, I said turn that light off. In these moments, his humor sharpens. The city gives him timing, the internet gives him reach, his family gives him resilience, and school, well, school gives him material. You follow him into crowded hallways where he's watching other creators who blew up, studying them the same way he once studied dancers and comedians. He wasn't copying, he was learning the beats of viral culture. How long should a joke run? When should the camera shake? How many facial expressions are too many? With Kai, the limit simply didn't exist. His reactions were so big they felt animated, like someone dropped a cartoon into real life. That became his signature. Then something subtle but important happens. One of his clips gets reposted by a bigger page. Not enormous, but big enough. Suddenly, people outside New York are seeing this loud, tiny-framed kid who talks like he's in a room full of friends even when he's alone. Comments roll in. This kid is hilarious. More of this, bro. Why do I feel like he's in my school? And Kai, well, he's stunned. You can sense him trying not to smile too hard when he reads the comments, but he absolutely fails. He's building something now. Not fame yet, but foundation. The kind that will one day support streams with millions watching in real time. You're watching him pace around his room late at night, scribbling ideas in a notebook that he'll lose 2 days later. But the energy, that sticks. The dream, that sticks. The belief, that sticks hardest of all. And then things accelerate. He collaborates with other small creators. They film until their phone batteries die. They improvise scripts. They chase trends. They start trends. The momentum feels like running downhill, fast, uncontrollable, thrilling. Kai is not just another funny kid online anymore. He's becoming recognizable, memorable, shareable. That's a dangerous combination, in a good way. You can feel Section 2 winding down as Kai hits that point where a hobby becomes a calling. The Bronx kid who learned to be loud enough to rise above the noise is now making noise of his own. And soon, a group called AMP is going to hear that noise too. You're stepping out of the Instagram era now, brushing off the echoes of hallway skits and late-night edits, and walking with Kai as he approaches the moment that will shift his entire trajectory. You can feel it before it happens. The air around him has that same buzzing tension you get right before a subway train blasts past the platform. He's building something, sure, but he's about to collide with a group of creators whose energy matches his in a way that feels almost too perfect. This is where AMP enters the picture. AMP, Any Means Possible, isn't just a group, it's a personality storm. And when their path crosses with Kai's, it feels like the universe has tossed gasoline on a spark. But before the big introduction, imagine yourself in Kai's shoes, a rising young creator with solid numbers, real charisma, and the kind of comedic confidence you can't teach. He's at that point where he's too big to stay small, but not yet big enough to touch the sky. Historians still argue whether creator chemistry can be predicted, but whatever formula exists, AMP had it. You're scrolling through YouTube with Kai one night, the screen lighting up his room as he watches AMP's chaotic challenges, skits, and group videos. You know that feeling when you watch something and think, wait, I fit in there? That's Kai right now. Not jealousy, not imitation, more like recognition, like he's watching a team he hasn't joined yet. Then the moment comes, an invitation, a DM, yo, pull up, something simple enough to hide how life-changing it actually is. You follow him as he heads to meet them for the first time. Maybe it's in a studio, maybe it's in a house, maybe it's wherever AMP happens to be filming that day, which could range from a mansion to a parking lot depending on the challenge. There's no red carpet, no dramatic handshake, just that instant click. The energy in the room spikes. AMP has no quiet mode, and neither does Kai. You watch him sit down with the group, Duke, Agent, Phantom, Davis, eventually Chris, and it's like watching puzzle pieces snap into place. There's no awkward build-up, no getting to know you silence, just jokes, bits, yelling, more yelling, and the kind of chaotic synergy that becomes content gold. A mainstream fact everyone knows is that AMP became one of the biggest creator groups on YouTube, but a fringe detail you might not know is that Kai didn't join right away. He was orbiting them, appearing in videos, building chemistry before it became official. And once he joined, the dynamic shifted noticeably. The group felt more alive. Now you're in their filming space, wide rooms echoing with laughter, someone yelling about losing a challenge again, food containers scattered around because nobody cleans until the video is over, and a camera perched on a tripod struggling to capture everything happening at once. Kai steps in front of the lens and the room reacts like a live crowd. The volume rises, the jokes stack, the reactions get bigger, faster, messier. You can see why viewers start saying he carried videos, not because he overshadowed anyone, but because his presence was that electric. The first time he appears in a major AMP challenge video, the comments light up. "This dude is funny as hell. We need more Kai. Keep this guy forever." And the numbers don't lie. Views spike, engagement climbs, clips go viral. AMP's fan base, already large, expands even more. You can almost feel the algorithm leaning forward like, okay, who is this kid? Walk with him through the AMP house. Rooms full of light filming lights, half-finished props, someone screaming from upstairs because a prank just went wrong, and a kitchen that looks like nobody has done the dishes since the last challenge. This chaos becomes Kai's new training ground. You can feel him growing, not just in numbers, but in identity. He's learning how to carry group content while sharpening his personality even further. One day, you follow him into a brainstorming session, AMP in a circle, tossing out wild ideas like they're competing in a who can get demonetized fastest challenge. Kai throws in suggestions that make everyone pause and say, wait, that might actually work. His mind is built for motion, constant and unpredictable. A quirky tidbit, Kai often came up with skit ideas in the shower, then ran out mid-soap to write them down before he forgot. That chaotic brain power translates seamlessly into group creativity. The videos get bigger, the stakes get sillier, the audience grows wider, and with every upload, one thing becomes clear. Kai isn't just part of the group, he's a core engine. He brings unpredictability, but also reliability. Ironically, the most chaotic member is the one you can count on to deliver the exact chaos fans expect. You're with him during a late AMP shoot, those nights when the clock hits 3 a.m. and someone is still arguing about a challenge rule that literally does not matter. Kai is cracking jokes, bouncing around the room, but you can feel something deeper forming. This group gave him a platform, but they're also giving him a runway. AMP is rising fast, but Kai is rising faster. Fans start asking for solo content. They want more than 10 minutes of him in an AMP video. They want his energy unfiltered. And Kai, with that same instinct that pushed him into school hallway skits, knows what's coming. You're with him in his room, whiteboard full of ideas, lights glowing, laptop warm from editing. He's on the edge of something enormous and he knows it. Imagine standing beside him, watching the numbers go up, feeling the pressure build, but also the possibility expand. This is the end of the AMP chapter, but it's the beginning of something even bigger. Because soon, Kai isn't just going to make videos, he's going to explode on a platform designed for energy levels like his. He's going to stream. And not just stream, he's going to dominate.
You feel the shift the moment you step into Kai's room. This isn't just a filming space anymore, it's a launch pad. LED lights glow against the walls, the chair creaks under the weight of potential, and the faint hum of the PC sounds like a countdown before liftoff. Kai Cenat is about to step into a world perfectly engineered for his brand of chaos, live streaming. Not small, quiet streams, not the let me play a game for 45 minutes and see what happens type. No, Kai is preparing for full-blown, unpredictable, marathon-style, celebrity-crashing, internet-shaking streams. You watch him lean back in his chair, adjusting his microphone, testing his cam, tapping his keyboard with that nervous excitement creators get right before they finally try something they should have done sooner. Historians still argue whether certain stars are made by the platform or if certain platforms are made by the star, but in Kai's case, Twitch and Kai collide so perfectly that it's honestly hard to believe he wasn't streaming from birth. Now picture that first big stream, chat exploding faster than the subway schedule during rush hour, viewers spamming emotes he hasn't even learned the meaning of yet, and Kai just laughing, yelling, reacting, pacing around the room, knocking things over, doing everything except sitting still. That's the secret sauce. Most streamers rely on gameplay. Kai is the gameplay. Before long, you're standing in the room during one of his legendary marathon streams. The air feels heavy and warm, the kind of heat you get when a PC has been running at full blast for way too many hours. Energy drinks litter the desk, half-finished snacks sit next to cables that definitely should not be anywhere near food. And Kai himself is on hour 23 with the exact same enthusiasm he had at minute 1. A mainstream fact everyone knows is that he broke Twitch's subscriber record. A fringe tidbit? He did it while still doing ridiculous, impulsive things mid-stream, like dancing barefoot, telling dramatic life stories out of nowhere, spinning in his chair until the room blurred, and reacting so intensely that neighbors probably thought he was being attacked by invisible bees. As you drift through the space, you notice something subtle. The room shifts depending on his mood. Sometimes it feels like a comedy club, sometimes a therapy session, sometimes a rave, sometimes a sleepover with thousands of people watching. Kai doesn't create content, he creates atmosphere. And viewers don't just watch, they participate. The chat itself becomes a character, yelling at him, challenging him, sending gifts, roasting him, hyping him up. Then comes the era of guest streams. Suddenly, you're sharing this small room with celebrities, rappers, influencers, athletes, viral personalities. People who normally walk into rooms like they own them come into Kai's space and react like they've stepped into a circus run by a very energetic ringmaster. You watch them sit down, expecting a normal interview, and 10 seconds later, Kai is screaming, dancing, or telling them to try something wild. Some try to keep up, some just laugh in disbelief, some get overwhelmed, but all of them leave knowing one thing: this kid is different. There's this one moment, maybe you've seen clips, where Kai's stream count suddenly spikes as a celebrity guest arrives. The room becomes electric. The chat moves so fast it looks like digital static. The mic peaks, the camera shakes, and Kai, he stands in the middle of it all like the eye of a hurricane controlling chaos with a grin. His birthday stream is another level entirely. You'd swear the room might actually explode from noise. He's dancing, yelling, opening gifts, reacting to surprises, and somewhere in the madness, he realizes he's breaking records in real time. Imagine being there, in a tiny room in front of a glowing screen, when suddenly the internet declares you the king of streaming. The chat spams W Kai, his followers skyrocket, donations fly in, and the unbelievable becomes undeniable. But it's not all screaming and celebration. There are quieter moments too, those deep, unexpected 3 a.m. conversations where he talks about pressure, family, growth, and the fear of burnout. You sit with him as he leans back in his chair, staring at the ceiling, while thousands of viewers sit silently waiting. That's another secret. Kai knows when to be loud and when to be still. His vulnerability makes him human. His chaos makes him unforgettable. Walk with him into the hallway after a stream ends. His voice is hoarse, his shoulders heavy, his hair a complete mess, and yet there's this glow in his eyes. The adrenaline hasn't faded. He lives for this.
The world unseen behind the screen, the cables, the sweat, the exhaustion, doesn't discourage him, it fuels him. The Bronx kid who learned to rise above noise now creates his own noise, and millions want to hear it. Kai begins experimenting: IRL streams, reaction marathons, challenge streams, sleep streams where he absolutely does not sleep. Some ideas flop, many explode. A quirky tidbit: he once streamed so long he forgot what day it was, and the chat had to remind him twice. The line between real life and stream life blurs, and you can feel the toll it takes even as the excitement grows. Then comes the record breaker, the moment when Twitch's subscriber count, something people believed was nearly unbreakable, falls to Kai. You're in the room when it happens. He's pacing, sweating, yelling, dancing, celebrating, and halfway crying because it's overwhelming. The lights flicker. The chat is ineligible. His friends burst in. Someone knocks over a chair. And Kai? He looks right into the camera, breathless, and whispers, "We did it." The Bronx kid, the hallway skit guy, the Instagram jokester, now the #1 streamer in the world. You can feel Section 4 slowing, like the last few minutes of a 24-hour stream. He's tired, you're tired, the internet is buzzing. But tomorrow, when he wakes up, the pressure is going to be different, bigger, louder. He's tasted the peak, and peaks come with shadows. And those shadows are coming next.
You can almost feel the air cool as we step out of the celebration haze and into the space that every successful creator eventually has to walk through, the zone where fame stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling like a weight. The confetti from broken records has barely settled. Chat is still recovering from screaming, "W Kai," for hours, and yet the internet doesn't stop. You're standing right next to Kai as he realizes that streaming isn't just fun anymore. It's a responsibility, a spotlight, and sometimes a storm. When you walk back into his room now, it feels different than it did before. The LEDs still glow, the headset still hangs on the mic stand, the chair still spins a little when bumped, but the energy humming in the air is thicker, more expectation, more pressure. There's always someone waiting for the next stream, the next wild moment, the next viral clip. The audience doesn't mean to demand, but at this level, demand happens naturally. Millions of people now see Kai as entertainment on command. You watch him before a stream one night, just sitting there. No loud music, no dancing, no jokes yet, just breathing, tapping his fingers gently against his knee. A mainstream fact is that once you become #1 on Twitch, your life becomes a running topic of conversation everywhere. A quirky detail, though? Kai sometimes paces around his room for a full 30 minutes before hitting go live, talking to himself, hyping himself up like he's about to walk into a boxing match instead of sitting down at a desk. And then there's the internet itself. It loves you fast, but it questions you faster. As his fame climbs, so do the headlines, think pieces, Twitter debates, and reaction videos. Some people crown him the future of streaming. Others wonder if the chaos has gone too far. Historians still argue whether internet fame ever truly lets someone remain themselves, or if it slowly reshapes you to fit what the audience wants. With Kai, that question hits hard. You walk with him through the controversy phase, the part of every big career where the internet pulls out its magnifying glass. Every mistake becomes louder, every moment gets replayed, every clip out of context becomes a storm. He's still the same fast-talking Bronx kid at heart, still cracking jokes, still bouncing around, but now every move exists under the brightest light imaginable. There are days where the streams are pure joy, laughing until he falls out of his chair, talking to chat like they're all sitting in the room with him, creating moments so funny the internet replays them for weeks. But there are also nights when he sits there quieter than usual, chin in hand, just staring at the chat moving faster than thought. That's when you realize something important. This isn't just content, it's life, and it's exhausting. You feel the tension between fun and expectation as clearly as the click of his mouse before every stream starts. He's carrying AMP videos, Twitch dominance, brand partnerships, friendships, family, and his own mental health at the same time. And yes, he's still young. That adds pressure.
The whole world watching a young man grow up in front of a camera? What could go wrong, right? Sometimes it isn't internet backlash at all. Sometimes it's just the emotional weight of being on constantly. Imagine being funny, high energy, and entertaining every single day while millions judge how well you do it. It's like living in a talent show that never ends. But this is where something powerful shows itself. Kai doesn't fold. Instead, he evolves. You see him handle situations better. You see him talk more directly about stress. You see him lean into humor when things get heavy. He doesn't run from pressure. He drags it into the room and wrestles it with jokes. That's his coping method, and weirdly, it works. Late at night, those iconic 3 a.m. stream moments, he'll let the mask slip just a bit. Sitting back in his chair, voice low, energy calm for once, he'll talk about the reality behind the fun, how surreal it feels, how overwhelming it can be, how thankful he is, and how scared he sometimes gets. And chat listens, quietly, respectfully, because as loud as the internet can be, it knows when a moment matters. There are times you can tell he misses being just the funny kid posting skits, when the world felt smaller and simpler, before record-breaking expectations and constant headlines, before everyone had an opinion on his life. And yet, if you asked him whether he'd undo any of it, you get the sense he'd smile, shake his head, and say, absolutely not. Because alongside the stress, there's something else here: purpose. Kai isn't just streaming for laughs anymore. He's showing kids from neighborhoods like his that they can dream wildly and loudly. He's proving that personality can take you just as far as polished perfection. He's inspiring creators, whether they admit it or not. Even his biggest critics have to acknowledge one truth: he changed the landscape. Now you're standing with him, feeling both the weight on his shoulders and the flame in his chest. He's tired, yes, sometimes drained, sometimes frustrated, sometimes misunderstood, but he's also determined, driven, still playful, still deeply grateful. And every time he presses go live, you can feel that Bronx kid in him again, the one who grew up surrounded by noise, laughter, and resilience, stepping forward to face the world with joy. Section 5 slows down like a stream winding toward outro music. The controversies don't define him. The pressure doesn't break him. They shape him, sharpen him, push him. And as you step toward the next part of this journey, you realize something big. Kai Cenat isn't done. Not even close.
You step into a quieter space now, not because the noise around Kai has stopped, but because he's learned how to move through it with a new kind of control. The room is the same. The LEDs still glowing, the headset still dangling from the mic stand, the PC still humming like an engine that never cools down. But the atmosphere has changed. Kai sits taller now. He speaks with more intention. There's still chaos in him, of course there is, that's Kai, but now it's chaos with direction. He's no longer just reacting to life, he's steering it. You watch him one morning as he wakes up, stretching, blinking at the sunlight leaking through the blinds, phone buzzing with notifications he hasn't even had time to process. Brand deals, opportunities, invitations, collabs with people who just a few years ago he only saw through a cracked iPhone screen. A mainstream fact everyone knows is that Kai has already cemented himself as one of the biggest streamers ever. But the deeper truth is that he's only at the beginning of what he can become. He's stepping into mainstream culture now, not just internet legend territory, but real-world influence. You walk beside him through a studio set where producers greet him like he belongs here. They know his reach, they know his impact, but more importantly, they know something the internet occasionally forgets. Kai is smart, sharp, and deeply intentional about what he does next. There's a scene you find yourself in. Kai sitting in a meeting room with a long table, water bottles lined up, and a screen showing pitch decks for projects that sound bigger than life. Movies, TV specials, comedy ventures, business expansions. Historians still argue whether streamers can transition into mainstream entertainment seamlessly, but when you see the confidence in his posture, you start to think he might be the one who proves it possible. His brand is expanding beyond just the funny streamer. Now he's a cultural figure,
a trendsetter, a bridge between traditional entertainment and digital influence, a voice for a generation that grew up online. You can feel the weight of that, but also the excitement. Then there's his circle, AMP, collaborators, longtime friends. They're evolving too. Kai never forgets where he came from, and you can see it in the way he still hypes up his friends, still brings people on stream, still puts others on. He succeeds loudly, but he brings others with him. That's a Bronx thing, a loyalty thing, a Kai thing. One of the most powerful images in this era is the day he visits his old neighborhood. You walk with him past the corners he used to film on, the stores he hung around, the blocks that shaped him. People recognize him instantly. Neighbors who knew him before the plaques and the fame greet him with a pride that feels warm and heavy. Kids run up asking for pictures, not because he's a celebrity, but because he represents possibility. You hear someone say under their breath, "Look at him, he really made it." And Kai smiles, not the big streaming grin, but a softer one. A quirky little detail about this phase of his life, Kai keeps notes, actual handwritten notes of goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, crazy goals. Some are scribbled so fast the handwriting barely counts as English, but every time he checks one off, he adds another even bigger one. That's the part most people don't see, the ambition, the discipline hiding behind the chaos. But even with growth, one thing doesn't change. Kai doesn't lose his humor. He doesn't lose the ability to turn a boring moment into content or a mistake into a bit. You're with him during a stream where nothing is going right. The audio bugs, a guest is late, the internet goes out for a second, and somehow the entire disaster ends up funnier than the original plan. That's the special thing about Kai. He doesn't need perfection. He thrives in the imperfections. You also witness a new depth to his content, more emotional talks, more reflective moments, late-night conversations about burnout, future dreams, and the surrealism of coming from a cramped Bronx apartment to being recognized worldwide. He's older now, a little wiser, but you can still see the kid in him, the one who laughed too hard in school hallways and filmed skits in places he definitely wasn't supposed to be. Then comes the moment he starts openly talking about legacy. Not just numbers, not just fame, legacy. The thing left behind when the camera switches off for the last time. And you can feel it in the way he says it. He means it. He wants to be more than big. He wants to be meaningful. You step into a more symbolic space, a large empty arena before a show, lights slowly warming up, the hum of electricity in the air. Kai walks through it quietly, hands in pockets, looking around like he's trying to absorb the magnitude of everything. This is not a stream, not a skit, not a joke. This is a moment of reflection, the kind that doesn't show up in clips but shapes a person forever. He's thinking about where he's going next. Bigger streams, bigger projects, bigger jumps into film, entertainment, culture, maybe even global events. He has the flexibility to move in any direction now and the confidence to try. As you follow him out of the arena, the lights dim behind you, leaving only a soft glow. It feels like a metaphor for something ending, but also something beginning. You step into the quiet of the night beside him, the Bronx kid turned global star, the skit maker turned streaming icon, the chaotic entertainer turned cultural force. And as the journey winds down, you realize something comforting. Kai Cenat doesn't need to prove anything anymore, but he's still going to do it, because that's who he is, and there's so much more ahead. And now, as everything slows to a gentle crawl, you step away from the brightness of arenas, away from glowing screens, away from crowded chat rooms and cheering crowds. You find yourself in a much quieter space, almost like the world itself has turned its volume down just for you. The air feels softer here, warm in a way that makes your shoulders loosen without you even noticing. This is where Kai's story pauses for now, like a book resting open on a nightstand, waiting for tomorrow. You picture him back in that peaceful, early morning moment, sitting in a quiet room before the day begins, phone silent, lights still off, the city outside just waking up. There's something calming about remembering that even the loudest people have quiet corners in their lives. Even the most energetic performers have slow mornings, small breaths, and moments where they simply exist without needing to entertain anyone. It's a reminder that behind every big story, there's a real person living one day at a time. Let your breathing match that feeling. Slow, steady, unhurried. Imagine the faint hum of a fan, the glow of soft lamplight, the gentle stillness settling over everything. The noise of the world drifts further and further away now, like you're watching it fade behind a foggy window. Kai's journey, with all its highs and chaos and loud laughter, melts into something warm and distant, not gone, just softened, like a memory you can hold without gripping tightly. You can almost feel yourself drifting with it, floating towards sleep the way a leaf floats towards still water. Nothing to do now, nothing to solve, just a story slowly fading into quiet. Let your eyes grow heavy, let your thoughts scatter into softer shapes, and as the last bits of energy slip away, know that the world can wait until morning.